Oh my goodness, it's been a minute. Frank, we're live and what? This has been like 3 months, 4 months? I don't know. It's we're in the middle of it's like November already. We haven't talked in well, at least on this podcast in months. But that's because you're not having a baby, but you're definitely been busy doing something. I've been busy doing
Mm-hmm.
something. We've been we've been working on some special projects, life, uh,
Mm-hmm.
taking care of our business, handling life. Then that's probably not a bad thing, is it?
Yeah, man, life happens, but um, we've I think we've both known that we were gonna stick with it and stay the course. We've got what 70 some 80 episodes or so, so we'll probably wind up getting a lot of them done. But life happens, and as you know, I'm in grad school now, and you've got a lot on your plate too. So it takes a lot of energy. You kind of go into a cave, you go into a cocoon. Sometimes you just have to kind of vanish, go off the grid, and really laser focus. And that's what we've been doing. So here we are. Probably got some fresh material because of it. So
Well, that's the big thing is I've spent some of my efforts and my energy focus into fixing the machine that does jujitsu. Um, I've had I'll bring up my dreams that I've had with I think I said on the podcast before with Igor telling me to in my dreams to handle some business. Um, I've recently had Neiman telling me to do things as well, but since I guess that I want to put it on the table. I'd gone at in at the end of July. I was in the hospital, and
mm-hmm.
we mentioned that a little bit. And since then, I've been consistent with getting a routine schedule, having a
Did you
routine.
consider that? Did you consider that a hospitalization? Did you consider that an adverse reaction to the vaccine or anything? How did you mentally process that?
Well, it was a formal opinion from the medical staff at the VA that it was an adverse systemic reaction to the vaccine.
Yeah,
That's
and
how
that's
my
pretty
dis.
serious.
That's
It was a pretty serious.
Yeah, it was pretty serious. I had started working towards intermittent fasting, like right around that time
Yeah.
of going in the hospital. But yeah, that was just the only outcome of that was I had been on some statins for cholesterol,
Mm-hmm.
and the VA is like, your numbers have improved. We're taking you off of this. But my weight was, I don't know. I'm having a problem with the discrepancy between the bathroom scale and the VA scales. VA scales saying I was topping out at 272.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I weighed myself this morning on the bathroom scale, and I was 222.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you look. I mean, you look. Even everything, your whole aura. It's interesting how when you get healthier, your aura changes, your glow changes, your skin, the way that everything, just changes. You look really good. So
Thank you.
you had that adverse reaction, and you came back from it. I think in some ways, as your friend, you came back from it more determined. You kind of lasered in, dialed in even more, and because the thing with life is you get these wake up calls along the way, right? That's the upside of adversity. That's pain is the greatest teacher, where um, bad things happen, tough circumstances happen, and it either makes you shrink or it makes you, you wake up and you got more determined. And this, you just got to keep swinging at your goals. I mean, you've always been a voracious reader. You've always been someone that loved jujitsu, and you're so talented at your professional stuff. But for some reason, there's just certain things that happen to us and it clicks at that time. It's like the drug addict, the alcoholics and the drug addicts have a saying, you know, you don't start to really change or get sober till you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. Right. And it's interesting how you would think that someone's an alcoholic or someone's a drug addict, that, okay, this one's going to wake them up. This one's going to wake them up. This one's going to wake them up. And they don't. And then something will happen that might not make sense to you and I. We're like, well, wait, how come that time that, you know, you were homeless didn't wake you up? But maybe it's that they lost someone they loved or something else, you know. So we all think that, like, okay, homelessness would be the wake up call, or this would be the wake up call, or losing your job would be the wake up call. But it's different for everybody. Sometimes the wake up call sometimes the wake up call for me is the idea that you're running out of time. I had the idea sometimes that, you know, it's like the hour, you know, the hands of time, right? The hourglass of time. And it's like, you look over and you're like, that the sands of time are just going in that hourglass. And you look over at some point, and on the one hand, I'm thinking, hey, you're as old as you think you are, so don't worry about it. But on the other hand, you're like, you know, these are precious years. They're passing you by. You know, I'm this age. I haven't done all the things I thought I would do. And that one kind of, like, for me personally, lights a fire under me. Me versus time, Frankie versus time, lights a fire under me. But what was it? What was the shift, I guess? Because you seem like you've hit another gear here. And is that just the natural consequence of the last 10 years, all the stuff you've been doing behind the scenes? Or was there something definitive that happened here that that kind of made you dig deeper and go further?
Yeah, thank you for asking me this question, because it's really good. Is there a pivotal moment, an inflection point, as you would say in mathematics? I say there were a series of them, and it's been the biggest one was the biggest one, like a seismic earthquake happened March 21st, 2012. My ex-wife left me, and that was the biggest. You know, it's like there are certain earthquakes that have been so great they've actually shifted the entire planet on their axis and how it rotates. It rings, you know, and they're like the tsunami of the last 20 years that you know, it wiped out 250,000 people in East
Bali?
Asia.
Was that Bali? Yeah, that was Bali, and yeah.
And then
I covered that. I covered that one of those deaths as a journalist, by the way, for the Los Angeles Review Journal. But continue. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, so in life, you know, there's been a series of seismic events in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are greater than others. I had a what I thought was whooping cough back in 2016, and I had drank in my fever. I had drank like a third of a bottle of Delsum cough syrup, and it gave me I hallucinated and passed out on the floor, and then went to the VA the next day, and they kept me overnight. Then I believe I had COVID February 2020, and I was in bed for 3 days. And then I had some other things going on. Like, I had financial seismic events, I had relationship seismic events, and then I've had health and mental health seismic events. So those four things happening, which, you know, people call them midlife crises. I've had a series of them over the last now decade of, you know, life's catching up to you, Noah. You know, you're going to have to respect Father Time. And so, you know what, that's like there's like a very harsh, painful side of it, and you don't have the skills or the knowledge, the wisdom to to address those things, and you haven't lived enough through very bad times to build that confidence that you can come back. But you have to have those things in your life to build that confidence that you can come back. And so through those realms, those, like those sectors of your life, financial health, physical health, mental health, relationship health, and I've dealt with seismic events in all four of those in my life, in my midlife since I turned 40. I turned 50 next year in under 6 months now, and I needed that stuff. I needed the stuff that's happened to me in my 40s to dig in, and not just to become educated. There's this process of self-education, and you're right. I do read a lot of books. I'm seeking guidance. I'm trying to walk up that learning curve quicker and make fewer mistakes. You can't walk through life and be Teflon and act like you know it all, or you're too slick to dodge any of those bullets. The moment you stop kidding yourself, and you stop and you face your reality, and you adjust to it, and you open yourself up to that, to that adjustment, to that a change, and then reckon with it, it happens. So physically, I've been learning. I've been avoiding adversity for a while. My 20s and 30s, I thought I was embracing it and I was doing a lot of great things, but I was avoiding adversity. I hate cardio, but now I'd love to do more of it. I love it, because I am now, Anna Forrest from her Forest Yoga, to snuggle up to your problems. And for a long time, I wanted to avoid conflict. I wanted to avoid the discomfort. And I guess, the real lesson of it all is you need to really snuggle up to it. You need to embrace it with openness and with an open heart. Be vulnerable. When we started this podcast, I was terrified of saying the wrong thing. I was terrified of people judging me. But what I've learned is the more you open yourself up, the more vulnerable you are. And then you patiently wait. And I don't want to say wait as in passive, but wait as in, let's see what I learned from this. Let's see what I need to adjust to. And then carefully and mindfully and with kindness, which is not always easy. It's kindness to yourself, kindness to others, because you want to act out in anger, you want to act out in frustration and rage. Like, I don't want this. I don't want to have these kind of issues. And I don't want it, like, with the food. The big thing for me was like, oh, I don't want to feel hungry. Well, I got to tell you, I've embraced intermittent fasting, and that. So I'm saying, in a global sense, you start to open yourself up to the pain, to the difficulty, to the adversity, and the more you open yourself up to it, the greater your capacity of change becomes. So I'm not there yet. Yeah, I've dropped some pounds, but the secret there is, I've checked out intermittent fasting and going home. I'm literally starving myself, but I'm actually feeling more nourished than ever. I feel, I feel like I'm accepting of that discomfort more.
Yeah, it's and I would say, and just an amendment. You say literally starving myself fasting. I don't think, and I know what you mean. You don't mean it as like, oh my, but for those out there who haven't tried intermittent, I don't think of intermittent fasting as starving. Of course, it's, as you know, Noah, it's voluntary food deprivation, right? So it's voluntary. But the other thing is, The only reason it's starvation is we become sugar addicts, we become spoiled, and our body gets used to that sugar high and it freaks out. And, the withdrawal symptoms of where's my sugar? Where's my sugar? Where's my sugar? And of course, that feels like starvation, though. It can be miserable and we can be cranky. And that's a real thing, the withdrawal symptoms of depriving yourself basically of the sugar high, because most of what people are feeling when they get irritable, when their body's alarm is saying, feed me, feed me, feed me, it's basically saying, look, I'm a sugar addict. I've been a sugar addict since since we came out of the womb. And where's my sugar? Right. And that equates to feeling like starvation. But the reality is that once you spend some weeks or some months and you ease into it, I would never recommend for anybody out there to, by the way, if you're going to fast, people, I want to do this 3-day detox or 4-day, man, do not do that unless you know what you're doing, or unless you're under expert supervision, because, the most of your toxicity in your body is in the fat. So fat is a holder. Fat is the home to toxicity. Toxicity in the body is preferential to fat. So if you lose even whether or not it's through a fast, a 3-day fast, 4-day fast, 5-day fast, or if you just drop a lot of weight too quickly, the wedding is coming up, the beach is coming up, and you lose too much weight too quickly, those toxins leave the fat where you're basically insulated from it, right? In some ways, that's helping you protect the fats. In some ways, protecting you. And then if too much of those toxins rush into the blood all at once because you lose too much weight, because you go into extreme fasting, you can get yourself pretty jacked up. You can feel horrible. And then you know what happens when they do that, Noah? Oh, fasting made me sick. Fasting's terrible. No. Right? It's like saying, running 3 miles made me sick. It's not for me. Yeah, because when you don't run for 10 years or 20 years and then you go run 3 miles and you blame 3 miles, right? Like it's, someone goes to do yoga, they haven't done yoga, and then they do it and oh, that yoga jacks me up. It makes me feel, it hurts me. Like, yeah, it doesn't hurt you. It's building you, right? Same with jiu-jitsu. Oh, that's just not for me. What did you expect? You've been on the couch for 20 years. I mean, of course, there's going to be an adaptation process, right? So anyway, the marvels of that. Going back to what you said, though, when you were talking about, that seminal shift, where the seismic shift, where you and your ex-wife left you, and then the financial stuff, which I've experienced that too as well myself. And then just the tsunamis of life, right? These tsunamis, these tidal waves, sort of compounds, right? Once one thing comes and shellacks you, it usually starts to create, a whack-a-mole scenario where you start having a bunch of one big problem can create 9 other, residual problems. That's just the way it kind of works, right?
Yeah.
Because you try to, you don't address that one, then next thing you know, you got another problem, and so, but I was thinking, and that's the worst part when you're on the inside of the adversity, you're on the inside of the misery, or life is just hitting you upside the head with that steel chair, and it's like the worst thing is when you don't know the way out, right? Like when you just don't know, when you're like, okay, I don't know how to get out of this, and of course somebody out there knows how to, but maybe you don't know who that person is, or you don't know who to believe. So the worst thing is, again, it's like the greatest fear people have. The greatest fear people have, it's not what it's the unknown. The unknown is the paper tiger is the worst fear anybody has. I don't care what anybody tells you. It's not even a guy you got to fight. If you are scared to fight a guy, we could work on your brain, and if we gave you the right reasons, you would fight that person as hard as you could, even if you're going to lose. You could overcome that one over time and go out there and fight valiantly. You could. But the unknown is, oh my goodness, right? The imagination playing tricks on us. So it's the same thing when you're on the inside of a problem and you've been trying for years to get rid of it, to get that monkey off your back, and you can't. That's the worst, because at that point you're just like, I don't know if I'm ever going to beat this. And then, some people start thinking really extreme. I mean, suicides through the roof, depressions through the roof. Noah, I saw a statistic the other day. This was a government statistic that it was 46% of Americans have used a prescription drug within the past 30 days. Almost half of Americans. Now, those are varying things from cholesterol, blood pressure. That's an astonishing statistic of how much we have to medicate for one thing or another, whether or not it's, whatever it is. It's astonishing that it just shows you that the suicide rates, the depression rates, the rate of prescription drug use here, which is the highest anywhere, just shows you a society that's hurting. We're dealing with a lot of things. So final thing I want to say about that, though, is that I was telling a friend this earlier today. I'm a hard-headed person, right? I'm a stubborn guy. I mean, that's, for better and for worse. I'm a pretty stubborn, hard-headed guy. And I'm the person, like, the way that I learn is life just, I mean, you got to hit me upside the head with it. It's got a like 2x4 steel chair. I cannot read the book. I've got to get hit by the chair. I've got to get kicked in the nads. I just got to take the blow. And then I'm like, aha, the universe is trying to tell me something. Like, it's trying to tell me something, right? So, I hope you're better than I am, and you just can learn by reading the book, or you got a mentor and they just do what they say. Now I'm there now. I mean, I'm there now. I'm open now to that mentoring and saying, hey, Frank, it doesn't need to take you 20 years. You find the right mentor, you find the right books, whatever, you learn it in 2 or 3 years. Same with jiu-jitsu. I mean, you find a great teacher is going to shorten your learning curve. It took them 20 years. They can teach you in 4 or 5, right? That's the way it should work. I'm open to that. But I would say for a lot of my life, unfortunately, my ethos was, pain's the greatest teacher. Please hit me upside the head with a steel chair. Okay, got it. Now I get it. And then I can teach that, right? I can teach that from the heart. Not knowing the way out, like where you went through, God, that can be so discouraging when people just, same thing for, I imagine, the drug addicts I've had conversations with, when you just keep thinking, okay, I can't beat this. I'm never going to be sober, or I'm never going to do whatever. And, those are the, I can honestly say, I mean, it's like, if you can make it out to the other side, whatever you're going through, whatever fire, whatever storm, if you can get to the other side, that's when it's sweet. That's when you can smile, like, and you can light up and you can beam still. But the question for a lot of people is, what's your threshold for pain? How much can you take? How far can you go before, and then come out the other side? And, a lot of people, I think, you and I have seen it. They just tap out, right? They just, when I say tap out, I don't mean they kill them. They just say, I'm okay with being okay. I'm okay with mediocre. I'm okay with less than I really want. I'm okay with less than my dream, because they kind of throw their hands up in the air and say, I don't know how to get out of this. It's never going to happen. Let me just accept what I have. And there is a time to accept. There is a time to accept what you have, but there's also a time to say, a lot of times what you want is within reach. You might just have to change the plan, change your habits. I mean, I say out there, I was saying this to a friend too, there's a lot of victimization out there, people painting victim on their forehead. There are a lot of problems in the world. There's a lot of broken systems. There's been a lot of great stuff in this country. There's been a lot of messed up stuff, how we built this country. We've got a great history. We've done some amazing things. We've got an ugly history too, of how things got done in this country, in any country. And, now a lot of people who don't even study history books, by the way, who just watch, mainstream media and sound bites, and get their news from, they get their history from little sound bites and little bitty news segments that are pennies on the dollar of historical education. But it's very popular and in vogue now to paint victim on your head. And I say, like, look, I'll let you paint victim on your forehead. Whatever that victim is that you want to say is holding you back, you can do that. It's a real thing. But if you don't have good sleep, you're not eating healthy, you're not exercising, you're not working your butt off, you're not grinding, you can paint victim on your forehead when you're doing a lot of the right things and you got a lot of the right habits, and you've been doing that for years, and then it ain't working out for you. Maybe there is something to what you're saying. Maybe there's something to, oh my gosh, it's because I'm, whatever. Maybe that's right. But if you're not out there grinding and doing the right things and living clean and hustling, to me, you got no right to paint victim on your forehead at that point, or to say, to blame anybody else. If you're not killing it and crushing it and hustling and grinding and trying to find a way and reading the books or whatever you got to do, or putting yourself in a jiu-jitsu class, whatever you got to do, if you're not doing all that, I don't want to hear your excuse. I don't want to hear it.
Frank, anyway. There's an on-ramp to that, like, how do I get, me being the muse here, and still, like, for Everyman, where, we started this podcast when I was still, I had some minor and moderate successes of coming out of my funk. And I think that I'm well on my way I'm on the on-ramp. I should say I'm on the highway now to getting back, getting to where I want to go. And as you're explaining this, the victimhood, that is something, that's a cloak you wear to numb yourself from taking responsibility and
It's a
holding
coping
yourself
mechanism too.
accountable.
It's a coping.
Yeah,
It's a total coping
it
mechanism.
is a total coping. Yeah, and I know that if I look deeper in my life, there are still other areas of my life where I'm wearing that invisibility cloak to go. I
Mm-hmm.
have, where I am transferring responsibility and liability and accountability for certain areas of my life. I know that I'm wearing that invisibility cloak.
Mm-hmm.
I am not one of the suspects in the lineup,
This is the interesting. Can I interject? Like, so the
Sure.
notion. Remember, your ex-wife. I had a divorce too, and that hurt me a lot. And it hurt me especially because I have a son. We share a son, and I knew I wasn't going to see my son every night. It was
Yeah.
never going to be the same again. I couldn't just peek my head in the room whenever he's asleep, and I couldn't just come home every day and he's there. But anyway, so those things hurt me like hurting you, and of course my son got very sick when I was young too, which was very tough to deal with, and that was really the awakening for me. But what's interesting is you and me, so many of us, like when you go back and you say 10 years ago this thing happened, right? 10 years ago this thing happened, go back, right? It hurt me. And then when we're here now, we're in the present moment. It's like, okay, well, that thing that's still bothering us or hurting us, where is it? Like, let's put it in front of us. It's like, well, where is it? Well, okay, it's in our brain. Well, where in, let's keep reduce. Let's do a reductionism. Okay, it's in our brain. Where in our brain? Well, it's in this little lobe here. Okay, it's in that lobe. Where exactly in that lobe? Okay, we found the region. Okay, what is that? Is that a spark? Is that a light? Is that a neurotransmitter? What is that? Where is that? And when we find it, we say, what is it really? Like, what is a memory really? Like a memory that haunts us, a defeat, like Dan Gable losing to Larry Owing in college, and he didn't get the 3 national titles because he could only win 3 national titles back then. You couldn't win 4. That was later. But where is that? Where is that haunting that haunts people for a lifetime? Where is it? And what is it? And in many ways, it's a paper tiger because it doesn't actually exist anywhere other than this little speck of neurotransmission that just keeps staying in some part of our brain and traumatizing us. And it jabs at our little brain like so much that it jabs at our heart in some way, right? It's probably jabbing somewhere in the brain, and then it's jabbing in the heart because you can even feel it kind of in your gut and in your heart. You can feel that. And it's so powerful, whatever that is, it can affect the whole body. It can affect the immune system. It can affect, probably hundreds of billions, maybe even a trillion cells. It can affect the whole colony,
Mm-hmm.
that little, whatever that is, that little jab. It's astonishing that something, because this is the thing. If we were to say, and this sounds absurd, but it proves the point. If we say, Frank, okay, that memory haunts you, go back and find it. Like, let's go find it. Let's go watch a movie of it. We can't. The movie is it's a thing in your brain. We can't go anywhere physically and find it. We can't find like your ex-wife leaving you. We can find a movie of it and snapshots of it playing in your brain. But if we say, let's go physically find it and put it in front of us, let's shake hands with it, let's touch it, let's yell at it right in front of us, we can't. We can't go anywhere in the physical universe other than your body and some cellular reaction and some hormonal or whatever, some neurotransmission cascade. We cannot find it. And it's astonishing that something so invisible, basically, so invisible that is visible in our brain, but something that's so invisible that we, on a physical level, we can't go and find it. It exists almost on an invisible plane, but that invisible infects the physiology of our body. That invisible thing we almost can't find affects the physical physiology of our body, the cells at the cellular level, at the immune system level, at the hormonal level, at the level where somebody over this invisible infliction that happened 10 years ago, we can't find it anywhere else on earth, they don't want to get out of bed. They want to drink every day. It's an astonishing, if you think about it, it's like, I mean, if we had a war outside right now, we could say, well, why are you feeling that way? Well, here comes the army, or here comes the saber-toothed tiger. That makes sense, right? That's the real tiger. But then you got most of these things that are paper tigers. Like, well, let's go get the paper tiger. Let's go find. It's just in our imagination. It lives on, and it's almost like a bad movie that just keeps playing. That isn't the movie now. The movie's done. It's gone. We can't.
Yeah, buddy. I do need to reframe what
Mm-hmm.
a word you're using. and the way you're
Mm-hmm.
framing this, and I think that you might agree with me after I express this,
Okay.
because it's not a when you said imagination, it's not a figment of your imagination. It is real, and it's real because, um, like if I like yesterday, I got like a little flesh wound on my finger. If you get something, if you get mat rash or something, you can point it on your body, and the body does an amazing job of healing it. Okay, because you've got 2 million years of evolution there of how your body just kicks into gear and it'll heal
Mm-hmm.
that physical wound. Psychiatric uh, damage, psychiatric harm. Well, let's just call that what it is. It is PTSD. It is psychotic damage. It's psychotic trauma. Okay, and that is something that is abstract. And yes, you can see it in an MRI. Uh, you can point to parts of your brain. We just don't have our knowledge of the brain. It's just not there yet. So we have psychologists and mental health therapists who know of methods and techniques that can go in and do psychiatric surgery. Okay, and that's we have physical therapy for whenever you mess something up. You mess your knee up, you mess your arm up, shoulder up. We have physical therapy for that, but we don't recognize the importance of doing mental health therapy to go through that stuff and um, to use evidence based therapy to get us out and work the grooves out of that trauma.
But
And
what
that's
I'm
something.
saying is most of that trauma is memory, though. It's not a here and now. It's only a here and now because we let. I'm not in any way trying to minimize mental health or any of that or the trauma of something. I've had plenty of it in my life, but my point is
Yeah.
that we let the memory of it something. It's not like if we were to live fully present, if we were to live fully completely present, and we said, okay, how's life today? You wouldn't be allowed if you were totally fully present. You probably wouldn't be thinking that. You could say, well, I'm living in the present and I'm thinking of this thing that haunted me 10 years ago. But if we were to say, no, let's just live fully in the present, what's in front of you now, your computer screen, this conversation, and that's we're talking about something else. If we were to live fully present, but it's the memory of trauma that seems to have it takes some place in our body. If it has a physiological effect, I'm agreeing, and it creates this trauma, it can create, incredible physical destruction up to suicide. And so it is a real physiological phenomenon, but it has in its, I would suggest, to my mind, a root of a memory, a trauma memory that we have allowed that memory to remain traumatic and to be corruptive to the physiology. When the reality is, what I'm saying with a paper tiger, and what I mean is, okay, if somebody could tell me about something so terrible that happened to them 20 years ago, oh my God, that is terrible. And I imagine that's traumatic and it could take years to get over. But we could say, like, okay, it's not facing us now. If we were to live fully present, like if we're on a jiu-jitsu mat and we live fully present, we're in the grappling session. We can't be in the memory of, oh my God, what happened 20 years ago. So to live fully present, at some point, I'm saying, that's where it gets to be the paper tiger to me, because it's like, okay, well, that's traumatic, but is it here right now? Like if we were to live fully present, it's not here. And yet for some reason we can't turn it off. And in that sense, to me, it's invisible, meaning it's invisible because we're not living in the present, we're living in the memory, and we're letting that memory replay over and over, and those images that hurt, we're carrying it with us, and it keeps replaying. And the question is, okay, let's imagine we were able to live fully in the present. We said, if we're in a garden, let's be one with the garden. If we're on a jiu-jitsu mat, let's be fully in the jiu-jitsu mat. If you're in a class, college class, let's be fully engaged in that. If you're
Okay.
with your therapist, then be fully engaged in that. But so many of us, we don't live in the present. We live in that haunting memory that replays, and it corrupts the neurotransmitters, the hormones, the everything. We make bad decisions, and that's
Sure. Okay, so let me go at this in a different way, another approach. All right, think of something you do in jiu-jitsu in the gi that a white belt would do until they learned in a painful way. Don't do that. Okay, so that would be like anytime you stretch out and you put a limb out, and then you get a bad, you get in a bad submission, and then you learn, you learn through pain to tap early and tap often because of that trauma. Let's just say it's a trauma thing. It's like, oh, that's pain. I don't want to go that route because that's not rational. You learn quickly on the mat because you have great feedback. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you know not to do that. And you know not to go near that. Don't put your hand on the mat when you're on top, because you're gonna get Kimura. So
Yeah.
in life, around our matters of the heart, we say, our relationships, you get hurt there. It's very easy to put your hand on the mat when you're dealing with like matters of the heart, and you get hurt, and then you realize that that's a hurt game. Being in love is a hurt game. And so then you start moving your whole life around where you never want to be vulnerable again. You just wall up, and you wall up among your friends. You wall up among, your romantic partners. You're like, I'm going to build a fortress around my heart, and I am unwilling to be vulnerable.
Well, this is most people, but what I'm
That's
suggesting,
deep, I know, but
what I'm suggesting, and what I think, this is just me, the best that I've got for anybody today. I would just say that what I'm proposing, even though it might make people mad, it might make a psychologist mad, a psychiatrist, because they've learned all these other theories. I'm just nipping it in the bud and saying, if I had known, if I could have talked to myself 20 years ago and I wanted to rewire my brain and focus on different things, that's how I would have approached it. I'm not saying that that's for everybody. I'm not saying that's what your psychiatrist would say. I'm basically saying that's what I would say to myself 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I would have let go of things a lot sooner. I would have realized that a lot of those things I was allowing them to still be in my mind, and I would have lived much more fully and presently in the fullness of the present. And I probably would have thought a lot less about the past, because it's like, what is it? Was it the Buddha or one of the, the famous sages saying, if you're living in the past, you're depressed. If you're living in the future, you're anxious. And if you're living in the present, you're usually in more peace. And I'm just suggesting that the more we live in the present, it has its own things. And some of those will be good and some of those are bad. But I think a lot of us, and I'm not saying we're aware of it, but a lot of us, we choose, it's a choice to sit there and be, to sit there. Now, having said that, like you were saying, it is natural. Like, it's like when someone dies, there has to be a grieving period. I recommend a grieving period. I don't say, okay, just do this mind trick and you'll never grieve them. The so-and-so died and you got a divorce. No, I think that it's healthy for people to have a grieving period, whether that's a marriage that didn't work out, whether that's someone you love or some big defeat. I think that's healthy. But I think when you start talking about going years and years and years, it's like, okay, that's where I mean the paper tiger, meaning it's time for us to say, we don't need, if we live in the present, we don't need to carry that past around with us. And a lot of times it's an invisible, the root of that is invisible. It's just a little mental movie in our mind. And then it's corrupting the cells. It's just corrupting the physiology. Like you say, there's a very real physiological effect. Yeah. But I guess I'm saying, yes, it's real. Acknowledge it, go through the pain, grieve it, give yourself an allotment. And then at some point, bury it somewhere or shoot it to the moon or put it in a message in a bottle and throw it away if you can. And the best antidote to that to me over time is give yourself a grieving period. And there's other strategies, but then I would say when you fully live present, you won't dwell as much on the past. If you just fully immersed in this conversation with Noah, this experience in the garden, this food we're about to eat, the people that I'm about to talk to at dinner, it's easier to not think about those things that we just carry with us, and 90% of it is just we don't need to do that, but we do. And I've done that. So I've done that a lot myself. So
yeah, but if you are still dealing with that stuff, there's a time and place to go onto the mat, go into the dojo, go into the academy.
Go to your psychiatrist. Do whatever you got to do. Go to your psychiatrist too, if that's your,
yeah, you got to work. And we should all be working out stuff like that in us because we all have it. And I denied myself. I tried to be that Teflon guy of like, I don't have a problem. I'm good. I don't need.
I am not saying that my way is the way. It's a way. It's a way, not the way.
I'm not talking about you.
Yeah.
I'm not
No.
talking about,
And whatever you've been doing, I definitely see, I've seen a lot of improvement, and I think that there's a bunch of ways, but
yes,
I
there are a
think that,
bunch of
as you
ways.
said, that there has to be a physical ventilation. There has to be exercise. Anybody who's serious about therapy, movement is medication. If you're not moving, you're denying yourself one of the best weapons. Like you're learning, it's one of the best weapons that you can have to combat it. If you're not doing that, I don't know how anybody's sane who's not working out at least a couple times a week. I don't know how anybody's sane. I
You
mean,
know,
I,
I gotta say also, I was kind of set up myself. I don't know. I've a lot of like, there's like little things I'm picking up, reading and listening to audiobooks. And one of them's like, you have to work on your relationships and build long-term healthy relationships because that affects your heart more than anything else. And I'm like what, my figurative? Are you talking about my this tissue here underneath the skin, or are you talking about this? The heart inside your head. That thing. Um, and one of the things I conscientiously did was like, I want to surround myself by people who I can learn from and pick up things from. Because the most complex thing you're ever going to come across is not a piece of machinery. It's not the internet. It's another human. And whenever you're around other people and you engage with them regularly, you're going to prosper from the exchange by growing and picking up things from them that you don't have. Being alone is like water that's not moving. It gets stale and stinky. Now, how do I get on that path of 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 transformation? Like the reason I brought up about surrounding myself is you said to me something that unlocked. It was like one little move unlocked a bunch of other things. Okay, and what you said to me was, know what, that curiosity of yours will lead to longevity, and I started working inside of that. And like longevity. Hey, I need to quit thinking about like eating or working out or living for just the appearance,
the
the
vanity, yeah, the
aesthetic,
vanity and
the
yeah,
vanity,
the stuff.
yeah, and start saying, what? Let's do things that are long term, all right. And so that gives you aspiration. That gives you
Yeah,
a
because
goal.
you're a voracious learner. You're a person
A
that you love
nerd,
learning.
a nerd.
Yeah.
Um, and there's another little piece of information that I picked up along the way,
If you
which
want to
is
find out if your buddy, if you want to find out if your buddy, because a lot of us can't tell how depressed is my friend, or a lot of us can't tell. If people commit suicide, we're like, I didn't see it coming, and you can't always tell who's going through what. There's been a lot of people we didn't think would commit suicide, and they do. One of the questions for anybody, it's a simple question, which is, how long do you see yourself living? Or then the other question would be, how long would you want to live? And you'll be amazed at how many people you'll get the answers that are in that 65 to 80 range, which isn't that long, actually. We think it is. 150 years ago, the average human in America was 39.4 years. It's 79.8 years now. So human lifespan, the last 150, 160 years has doubled. So 80 is not old. I mean, it's not, that's going to keep going up. And so, one day average person would be 100, just like we flew airplanes and all kinds of crazy stuff that we think is impossible now. Now Teslas are going to be 1,000,000 miles. So all kinds of stuff we think 80 is not old. But when you ask your friend, you say, 70. And what they're thinking is, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. I don't want to live as long because of this. I'm going to be a burden. I'm going to get dementia. I'm going to get Alzheimer's.
wow.
There's a lot. You can learn a lot about people just by asking them, how how long do you want to live, and if you try to dig why, you'll learn so much about someone. You'll
Wow.
learn so much about, are they, the glass is half full, is it half empty, are they depressed, what's bothering them, their view of human nature. There is so much wrapped in the answer to that question, and most people, they don't want to live past 75 or so because it's a lack of imagination. They automatically think it's going to suck. They think the world sucks. They think they're going to be a burden. They think the body is going to break down. And now once you lose that, once you say, I'm okay with only living to be 70 or 75, the decisions you make today will be worse. because you've lowered the bar. You for yourself have lowered the bar.
Wow.
And when you lower the bar,
That's...
it's easier to make crappy decisions. If they were to raise the bar and they were optimistic and they said, I dare to be 100, I dare to be 120, I dare to be 150, then at the very least, they would give a lot more. They would want to make better decisions. Their why, the power of their why would go way up. But a lot of people lose because they aim so low, and they aim so low with the answer to that one. Most people are going to tell you somewhere between 70, 75, 80. That's what they're going to tell you, right? And they're just going along with the average, right? That happens to be the average, right? Men are like 75 and women are 81 or somewhere around there. Men are 75, 76, women are 80, 81. So most people are going to give you the answer that's just the total average answer. And they're going to assume that their brain's going to start to deteriorate right around the late 60s and the 70s. They're already making that assumption too. They're making the assumption the world's going to go to hell in a handbasket. And guess what that means? That means it's okay if I make shitty decisions today. It's okay because I don't expect to get any further than that. And so they're guilty of aiming so low. And that answer tells me so much. So I'm glad that spoke to you because I've observed that. And there's a lot of power in that. And kudos to you for getting on that like a dog on a bone and saying, aha, I'm on it.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, no, that was what I needed. And I wondered, it's taken about 20 to 30 minutes for me to get this in there because things keep coming up in our conversation, which this is a conversation we're going to have for a long time. And I'm not talking about today in general. Mm-hmm. When you start to say the longevity of your time on the mats, and you hear this, there's so much good stuff about taking up
jiu-jitsu. Look at Glover Teixeira. We're dovetailing with
there you go. Oh my goodness. There you go.
Oldest first time. Randy Couture was the oldest to ever do it. He was 43 years and like 6 months when he beat Tim Sylvia. But the oldest to do it for the first time was Glover Teixeira. And congratulations to Glover. But a guy that's just he kept thinking it's possible. He was radical, thinking no, Tom Brady's doing it. So, but these are first and foremost, these are mental decisions, and you have to win the battle in your brain before you're going to win that kind of battle. And so, for most people out there, I would just say, we're getting ready to wrap it up here, because I got to get ready to get on to a cabin. I'm going to be in a cabin doing some work and near the river and relaxing, getting some peace of mind. But ask yourself, are you out there? Noah was telling you that it's work for him. Just ask yourself, how long do I want to be here? Not just what do I want to do and how much money do I want to make and, and places I want to visit. Those are easy things. Everyone just sticks to the easy stuff. I want to visit. I like to travel. I mean, when I'm in the dating world, remember I love to travel. Who doesn't? I was like, I love to travel. I love good food. Everybody does. Like, go a little bit deeper. Like, okay, how long do you want to be here? Why? What are you going to do? What will it take? If you said you want to be 100, you want to be 100, 120. Well, now we got to really be doing some things right now to enable that. So now we've already raised the bar, right? If you dare to say 120 and 130 and you mean it, oh my God, we got to think about your sleep. We got to think about what's in your shopping cart. We got to think about what's in your fridge. We got to think about what you're reading. We got to think about how you'd make money. We got to think about, a lot of things where we got to really plan. Not just throwing spaghetti at the wall, but when you want to be 70, it's like, yeah, we can sit here and throw spaghetti at the wall and go through the motions and go through the little rat race, and we can kill 70 years that way. But if you want to be 120, 125, 150, you got to be a curious mofo to pull that one off. And you got to do some planning, and you got to start right now adopting some habits, right? It's a game changer.
But that's where I wanted all I've been wanting to say for like 30 minutes now is all this stuff. It starts with just small rules, tiny rules.
It starts with questions too. It starts with a question. It starts with a question. It starts with a question to yourself, and then answer it. Finding 100 different ways to answer it. Don't accept just your first. Most people too. Even when they ask themselves a great question, they accept the first answer. Don't. In philosophy, they used to teach us. Some of the best teachers I ever had used to say, "Listen, tell me 100 ways to say it. So if you're going to give me your truth or your answer, okay, now reframe it. Now give me another one. Now give me another one. Tell me 100 different ways you would answer it, even if you were saying the same thing. And so Don't just accept your first answer. That's a mistake a lot of us make too. Build upon your first answer. Go deeper with the question, because it's like jujitsu. It's like I show you a hip escape, you do the hip escape. You do the hip. I show you day one the hip escape. You do the hip escape. Do you have a good hip escape? You just the hip escape. Is it a really good hip escape? No, it's not. Tomorrow it should be a little better. The next day, 10 years from now, that hip escape should be getting better and better and better. It's no such thing as it's like Heraclitus. You can't step in the river. You can never step in the same river twice. You can always get better. So people will also accept that their answer, it's like, go deeper. Why? If you don't want to ever live to be 100, why? And go deeper. And don't just accept, well, here's my 2 sentences in the story. Like, yeah, there's a lot in that. There's a lot. Our relationship with death will tell you a lot about your life. How you ponder and think about death will have huge consequences for how you live your life. And people spend too little time. We go to a funeral and we think about death for a little bit. We cry for the person who died, and we think a little bit, and then that's it. We go to the funeral, we cry for them, we think about memories, and we say, how many people will come to my funeral? If I died, you ever ask yourself, if you died, how many people within the next 3 weeks would know that you died? You think about that. Like you're a guy, you and I are friends. You would know. If I died in a week, you'd probably be like, what's up, Fred? Something weird's going on. I got tons of people, even people I'm friends with. They wouldn't know for a month. They don't check on me, whatever. I haven't touched base with them. People wouldn't know for 6 months. Most people wouldn't know for 6 months or a year that I died.
Yeah.
They would.
Got it.
But a lot of them wouldn't care. But anyway, out there, no, it's been a great day. I got to get on to other stuff, but you're looking good. You're the incredibly shrinking Noah. You're on your way to 185, whatever that is. The incredibly shrinking podcast co-host genius here.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I've learned a lot from just having these sessions. And I think that we put him in the can. I'll be the muse for Everyman, and just go through this because there's material there. There's some stuff. Hey, all right, you're free. I don't want to hold you back. It's good talk. Life-changing stuff.
Well, see you. Happy Sunday, everybody. We'll see you soon, buddy.
All right, take care. Next week, hopefully. Bye.
Okay, bye.